Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. And I'm also the author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life. And today, my guest is George Ackerman. Welcome to the podcast, George.
Thank you for your time, and thank you to all your viewers as well.
Yes, so George Ackerman is a lawyer, police officer, and PhD, but above all else, he is Sharon's son. He started Together for Sharon with his family for the purpose of keeping his mother, Sharon Riff Ackerman's memory alive, to share the message of Parkinson's awareness and hope for a cure. So you have done so many things in your life
Mhm.
so far.
Thanks.
So
Yes, I always think I have a lot more to learn from everyone I meet. So it doesn't matter how many degrees I have, I always meet some inspiring people, especially in the Parkinson's community.
yeah, so why don't you start out by just telling us about you and how you went through this journey?
Yeah, I've always had a passion for victims of crime or helping other individuals in my life. So I decided to pursue a legal career in criminal justice field. I still had a big passion to help victims. Unfortunately, again, I don't talk a lot about me because I'm here more from Parkinson's and my mother, but I decided to then kind of go into the field in law enforcement because, again, felt I could make more of an impact on helping victims of crime, but unfortunately, you just have too many calls, and in the legal field, too many individual cases in the prosecutor's office. So I decided to do a PhD, and luckily in a way, but sadly in another, I was able to work with a group of African American mothers who lost their loved ones due to a crime, and specifically a homicide in West Palm Beach, Florida. So I do a lot of my research on aiding the family members of victims, because a lot of the time criminal justice field, they really forget the victims. There's just not enough resources. Kind of is almost similar in Parkinson's, where we need more awareness, which maybe that's why I had a kind of not a knack, but a passion. And that's where I find myself today is really any time I get, if there is time, I dedicate. And some nights I don't sleep thinking about my mother and thinking about all those who still are fighting with this disease. And also trying to keep the hope alive that one day we will have a cure, even if it's too late for my family and my mother. It's never going to be too late for those who are still battling. And I feel that it's my duty to never give up until we have a cure.
Wow, that's quite a passion. So just going back to the helping the families that are victims, what resources are available for them at this point? Are there some?
Yeah, unfortunately, my study was going to be on the different portions of the field, whether corrections, the courts, or policing. But on policing, you just again, you have so many calls. You usually hand a pamphlet, and that's it. In prosecution, they do have services, but if you take a certain, like my county, could be 3 million individuals, and there's only a few victims advocates. So there's really something unfortunately wrong with the system, and it's just a lot, unfortunately, about funding. There's just not enough, and now you can see with the climate in the country, which could be another podcast. It's just a lot of cuts now, cuts, cuts, cuts. But when you do that, the victims are forgotten even more. So I think we've taken a very sad step backwards, at least in terms of aid for victims and even response to crimes and things. If you see the news and go up, I recommend people really do ride-alongs, because then you don't need to rely on outside sources like the news. You can literally go yourself and see what it's like. But again, that's a whole nother story for another time.
Hmm. Yeah, yes, yes. So, and now you're actually a professor, and
Yeah,
what are you teaching now?
I teach criminal justice. I've been doing it for 18 years. It's really my love. That's because, again, you might have a lot of degrees. I have several, but I still feel I have a lot to learn. And the great thing is when you teach, you don't maybe just touch individuals' lives, but you also are touched by those students. So, I mean, I can't do everything in my career, in my opinion, in work-wise is over. I
Mhm.
teach and I love it. I was able to work in the field, but now I get to live through all the students. So if you have 20 students, some of them may end up in federal agencies, local, even victims advocates. So it's really incredible when you hear about what they're doing, and then you kind of feel like you are a part of that.
Yeah. So tell me about your family and your family life, before all the Parkinson's started. Tell me a little bit about, how you grow up, the kind of the things you guys enjoy together.
It sounds sad, but unfortunately, my mother was like my best friend growing up. You can call me a mama's boy. I'm proud of it, but I had an unusual relationship where I would call my mother, several times a day. We always touch base. We always lived close. I went to school locally in college, so I lived at home for a long time. Even when I moved out to go to law school, always visited weekends, but we were very, very close. Couldn't imagine a holiday or birthday that we weren't all together, and it was amazing. Even if sometimes we argued over what food to eat or some funny old memories, my mother would always tell stories. I have three children, so her favorite time in the world was spending her time with her grandkids, and we actually purchased a little home nearby, only a community, with a little teeny lake, and I always dreamt for 10 years she would be able to relax in the outside and with the grandkids, but unfortunately we don't know why, but the last year, which was around 1999, the disease just accelerated stage 5. And within a year, it was something, her last 7 days of her life were something that I would never want anyone to experience, whether you're the caretaker or the Parkinson's patient.
Mhm. So how old was she when this Parkinson's disease started?
When she passed, she was only 69, which is extremely young. And she might have had it for about 15 years. But to be honest, when you're younger, I didn't really know much about the disease. I know that she had stiffness in her left arm, which didn't complicate her life. She was very independent. She lived alone. She didn't really need to rely on anyone. She was able to do her banking and live a regular life, drive the car, shopping. So unfortunately, I'd say 5 years before 99 is when it started kind of getting worse. We took her to about, I'd say, 15 to 20 doctors, but weren't able to really come with any, cure or conclusions. They do say some individuals can live, past 90 or even with Parkinson's, but my mother passed away at 69. She had no other medical condition. Parkinson's, unfortunately, also causes other issues. And again, I'm not a medical doctor. I never claimed to be. I'm a doctor of philosophy, so it's in criminal justice. So when I'm doing this, I always tell everyone again, I'm just speaking as a son and a caregiver, not as a medical doctor. A lot of them do claim that you don't die from Parkinson's, which I disagree because again, we've went to 20, 15, 10 doctors, and not one of them said she had anything else but Parkinson's. But you can have other symptoms. She had gained dementia, which was really upsetting because one day I recall she was with my daughter. We were in her room, and this was during the last year of her life, and she was hugging a towel or a bed sheet and calling the bed sheet my daughter's name because she just didn't know at that point. She had delusions and things, and it's very frustrating because she had to go on long-term hospice, which is rare. It's a new thing they're offering because we couldn't handle the nurses, and she had to have 24/7 care because some nights she didn't sleep, and it was costing $12,000 a month. So this disease is not something that everyone can even handle due to finances. But it was just very tough. The one she went for again, saw me anytime, but she was kind of doing worse the year before she passed. So we decided, or she decided she would go to University of Florida. I won't name doctors and things, but she was going to go in one of the studies. She went there one night and they changed her medicines, like Siminet and some of the things, again, medical terms, drugs she took. The day she came back, she ended up at 2 a.m. moving her furniture out in the middle of the street. And
Oh,
I rushed out, and I got a call from my father who was in New York. And I got there, I was in shock that she thought there were Nazis in her home trying to hurt her. So she was moving all her furniture out at 2 a.m. I didn't know what to do because I might be in law enforcement, but you're not, I was never trained for this. And I think what happened is she had a urine UTI, and I guess that comes with a lot of these symptoms. And I rushed her to the hospital. They helped her, and then they said she probably would have passed away that night if we didn't, get her to the hospital. But it was causing delusions. And when I brought her to the hospital, I remember one time, and I'll get more better stories. This is kind of sad, but the one night I'll never forget, which was sad, is after she was in the hospital, I went back to get some of her things, and I found little, the post-it notes, like these, regular post-it notes, and they were all around her room, and they said like Paul is not really here. So she actually was writing down names of people she thought were in the room that were not in our state or some not with us. So it was just, that's what's kind of the signs that you notice that, with Parkinson's, dementia, also signs and unfortunately delusions and things that no one really is capable of taking care of.
Right. And actually, I was going to ask you that question. So let's say someone thinks their family member might have Parkinson's. What's the early signs, the ones that are kind of hard to detect, but if you pay attention, you'll notice them?
Some have, the shaking. If you look, unfortunately, Michael J. Fox is a great spokesperson for Parkinson's disease. He actually has a movie next Friday. I'm really excited. It's the first one in my lifetime that they made concentrating on his life, but specifically for Parkinson's, and that really helps with awareness.
Mhm.
Also, if you go to my website, TogetherForSharon.com, you can see that we just add a little scrolling, a little icon, and it says and Parkinson's disease. Finally, this last month, it was an honor to work with the Michael J. Fox Foundation myself. I spoke with a local congresswoman and gave a 3-minute speech, which I actually recorded, put on the website. And it's really just trying to ask the government, federal, for more resources. And I think it was passed. It's still going on, through the Senate and Congress. But it was the first big bill, federal, that's going to try to request more funding for Parkinson's awareness, and it's called the End Parkinson's Disease Act. So it's really we're making huge ground. There was also a huge study a week ago with blockers. Again, it's much more medical. You'd have to look up, but it's now incredible that they might be able, thanks to the Michael J. Fox Foundation and research, and we donate and also fundraise for them and other organizations. They might be able to take fluid from a spine of an individual and tell you, or that person, if they might have Parkinson's, and maybe be able to treat it before it's too late. So we're making huge ground. And again, I recommend, I don't get anything from it. The movie's out next Friday, I believe, on Apple TV, but I believe it's called, if you look at Michael J. Fox, you'll find it. It's not called, I'm forgetting right now. It'll come to me. But, we need things like this. Last thing is, last Friday night, my wife and I were really honored that we were able to go to the Boca Raton, Florida Ballet, and they had a special program. I don't know if you saw, I put it on our website, and we have Facebook and Instagram. We use all the social media, but it was Parkinson's ballet. So they actually had individuals who are suffering from Parkinson's disease, but the main goal of Parkinson's is to keep moving. That's a big thing. We have moving day. We have, because it's really scientifically shown that if individuals with Parkinson's keep moving, keep exercising, that it helps fight, and also mentally, not just physically, mentally help. So it was incredible to see individuals, there were young girls who've done it their whole life doing the ballet with the individual with Parkinson's. They're just so inspiring, beautiful. We also donated to that organization, but there's some incredible people and things out there. The big problem I still see, that's why I wanted to meet with you today, is really awareness. And I think I sit many nights trying to think, what can I, do, and what can I get involved with. Actually, Florida Atlantic University, one of the big universities, has a lot of programs. I'm going to actually attend. It's a movement type lecture next month, and also they have Tai Chi, which is a form of exercise and karate. I'm not going to participate, but I'm going to do stories on them. So I've been trying to do a lot of local things, and we put them on my website, but then we share it everywhere. And same thing with this podcast, because I want to promote us all. I think what you're doing is incredible. Giving us an opportunity to just talk means the world. And I'll get through our discussion, but for some reason, some of these are really tough still emotionally for me personally. In a way, I'm coping too by doing these, but I miss my mother. I'd rather not. I love to meet everyone and do this, but I'd rather not. I wish I could say we had a cure and I didn't have to do this, but we don't, and she's not with us. So I fight and I continue to. And these are bands. This is another, I don't know if you can see, but we give these out for free around the country. It kind of went viral. This started a few years ago. When my mother suddenly passed, we didn't know what to do. I'm the kind of person, I like to give someone something to remember. And we thought we'd have like a few people at the funeral. Some reason we had it was beautiful, like 50 people to support her and me. And my at that time, my brother-in-law, he wasn't my brother-in-law, but he actually put this on and took a picture of just his arm, not his face. And I
Mhm.
thought in my head, I'm like, maybe that's a really interesting concept, putting, because people want privacy, they don't want their picture and their face
Mhm.
everywhere on the internet. But it was just a hand, and it was so powerful, and it was the band, and it said, it says Together for Sharon, it says Parkinson's awareness and her name in memory of Sharon Ackerman. So for some reason, I decided to put it online. All of a sudden, I was starting getting like hundreds and hundreds of people doing the same thing, and it was so touching, and it still continues today. We even had Willie Geist from his wife, Christina, who wore one and said she just happened to see it, and she went running that day in memory with my mother's band, or believe she's, so, and he's the NBC host, I believe. So it went national, like Today's Show, and just incredible. We had to cut back because I was paying for all of them. So I'm going to send you one if your viewers would like them. But that's kind of the incredible support. It's not like politics. There's really no argument here. We all want to end Parkinson's. There's no ifs, ands. There's a good reason to bet. No, we're all just in it together. And again, I do a lot of walks and events, and it's just inspiring when a couple comes up to me and one might have Parkinson's and they start crying and thanking us just for being there. Because again, I might not know them, I might not be their relative, but I am out there advocating for them.
Yeah. So you've mentioned the website several times. Why don't you tell people what the website is?
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we wanted to share my mother's memory by
Oh,
her
no, no. I
story.
mean, what's the website? What's the
Oh, that's easy. I'll just right there. Just www.togetherforsharon.com. I don't know
Well,
if it's
that's easy.
backwards.
TogetherForSharon.com. Okay.
Yeah. And it was just my wife's idea. And I just thought it was going to be something quick and never looked at again. But it just turned into something special. And what I really enjoy is, again, the local. And I have a lot of interviews coming up. I like to do more of the old school. I used to be like a writer in college in the newspaper. I don't do podcasts because I love podcasts, but they're a lot more complicated, as you know, and
Mhm.
timing and things. So I usually I'll call someone for 10 minutes, do a little interview. A lot of the questions are the same because it's the same information I want. And I did three so far. One was with the head of the Florida Atlantic University College of Medicine, who runs programs for Parkinson's. One was an incredible individual, and she does rock steady. It's a boxing class for individuals with Parkinson's disease. And then I did one with the Boca Ballet and their program. So I really just look for programs local that I think need attention. Even the ballet we went to only had about 50 people. We're in Boca Raton, Florida, which it's sad that more, and there's a lot of people, Palm Beach County, who have Parkinson's and need more events. And we actually, because of the Parkinson's Foundation, I'm actually now I'm on the board. I'm trying to help more with bigger organizations nationally. And they taught me in a meeting, just that's how incredible it is. If you just meet other people and start talking, I learned about an individual Parkinson's, and he went to his city, and they declared their city Parkinson's awareness. So it gave me the idea, and I wrote to the mayor of Boca Raton, and he proclaimed Boca Raton for April Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month in memory of my mother, and we put that proclamation on the website. So just incredible things out there. You just have to learn about them. And my goal with our website is to really provide information. It doesn't we don't accept any donations. Anything donated goes right to either the Parkinson's Foundation, the American Parkinson's Disease Association, or the Michael J. Fox Foundation. We've raised about $15,000 in just 3 years. It's not easy because obviously a lot of individuals need help financially, but it's, at my own family, it does donate a lot. And the main thing is we hope, it's being used properly and for more programs.
So, what advice do you have for families who have someone with Parkinson's as far as like activities for that person? Like you talked about, keep moving. What things can the family members do to support this person going through this?
Yeah, sadly with COVID, it kind of ruined live events, but in a good way, it brought us all together virtually. So if you go online to various associations, and if you look again at our website, and there's a website, there's a link to partnerships, so show multiple organizations. They do a lot of events, so individuals could join together on a virtual event if they can't get out. It's incredible. And we move. I even have a video, my wife and I doing exercises, and and you're on live, with people around the country, and they're all doing it. So it's called Moving Day. It's
Hmm.
once a year. Then there's an optimism walk that the American Parkinson Disease Association does, where they have speakers, so they have medical professionals. But there's a lot of things out there. They just have to really come to our website because it kind of makes it a little clear. Again, I don't give medical advice. That didn't work out for us and my family. We really just couldn't find the right. We tried everything. Like if you want to, I don't want to get too complicated into it, but we tried doctors, we tried therapy, we had music therapy. I actually got to play with the music therapist the week before my mother passed away. So if you go to the website scroll down to the bottom, we posted the video of the music therapist and me playing my mother's favorite song, Memory, from the Broadway show Cats. My mother and I went to see that on Broadway in New York when I was a kid. We're from New York originally, and that was the last time my mother ever was able to speak, and she said she loved it. So thank God I took the video. I didn't do a lot of video when she was sick because, just videos you don't want to see her. I did document her bad downward progression for the last year, and I have them, but I only save them in case medical individuals ever need to study, for the future. But I don't share that stuff because I don't think it's how she wanted to be remembered.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So, and you had said in the bio that you sent me that, a lot of times people going through this, they feel so alone, they feel so alone. How do you combat that? What resources do we have for that?
The sad thing with that is that a lot of it does depend on family, and some individuals don't even have family located locally. My mother was divorced, so my father was not there. Unfortunately, it was a different location, New York. Uh, the nurses used to joke with me because they said they couldn't believe how close I was with my mother because there wasn't a day or a minute I didn't, make sure I was there for her. There are support services. We went through several, companies for nursing aides. We had a big problem with the aides because a lot of them just were regular like comfort aides, and they weren't trained for individual Parkinson's. They did some weird stuff that I had to actually, because I'm a police officer, I installed video cameras throughout the home. And that's another problem is my mother, because of the delusions and a lot of the effects of Parkinson's, thought they were harming her. So we had to, I always believed my mother, but at that point, was getting worse, so we didn't even know what to believe. So we put those in, and actually, I caught one of the caretakers. My mother was yelling for help at night, and they didn't even respond. So those are the really sad things that happen. I imagine the homes are even worse. But again, if that's just why you have to be able to afford certain things, which is not always reasonable. But the biggest support was, well, unfortunately, some of the bigger foundations have no presence here in my area, unfortunately. So they didn't come to support us. They do have 800 numbers, but American Parkinson Disease Foundation actually sent a representative. They came over and they were very supportive. But besides offering programs like the boxing and things, and she was already getting too sick, there's really not much, that they could offer. So unfortunately, I always say with Parkinson's that I have my views, my experiences. Other people have their views and their experiences, so it is very different disease. I mean, someone could live to 90 with Parkinson's and pass from something else. Others, like my mother, lived only till 69, had no other illness. Same, so it affects individuals differently. And the last note is that she went from that 1 year in 99 past it was odd. She passed 1/1/20, right before the New Year, and she luckily missed COVID and how the craziness and law enforcement and all that. But she went from being able to be alone, live alone, to having caretakers, to not really being able to walk, to going to the wheelchair, to a walker, and then she's getting very skinny. Her health is declining, and she was a very good eater. So I would buy Publix or shop for her. Anything she wanted, she got. I even bought her big chocolate cakes. At that point, you want the person to enjoy their life. They're not gonna have diet thing, but anything we did and every doctor we saw just really couldn't help. They did give medicines. I remember after I passed, I had to clean out her home, and she had garbage bags of medicine. So I'm not, again, a doctor, but some of the stuff I think is a big problem. Just taking medicine. That's one issue I wish I could have fixed, but you're trusting, the medical doctors, you're not really, and then when you go home, my mother couldn't take the medicine. So we had nurses giving it. So you don't even know if they're giving it properly in the right times. We had medical books filled like this huge with what times and this and then, and it's more than a full-time job. And then on top of that, I had a family. I had my own several full-time jobs. So it takes a certain type of person. I'm not saying I'm great or anything, but you have to give up your life. You have to give up sleep, and you have to, be there for your loved one. Because, I'm glad I was able to do everything. I always look at life like I never want any regrets. So I never wanted to look back and say, oh, what if I could have done this? It was really honestly nothing left. I actually bought this pin. I don't know if you viewers can see,
Uh-huh.
but and I wear it everywhere I go. It's the tulip for Parkinson's. It says PD,
Uh-huh.
but everywhere I have a keychain. I have, anywhere I go, I think of my mother 24/7, even today. And there are some nights I still don't sleep, just thinking if there would have been something else I could have done. And in reality, there isn't still today. But the last year, finally, she was so bad that in a selfish way, we were, glad she didn't keep having to suffer. And that was, towards the last 7 days of her life, she didn't really move. She didn't speak or eat or anything. She just lay there and was, you could see her chest rising. And there's no, Death with Dignity Act in the state of Florida, which is another podcast we could have. But
Mhm.
so we couldn't do anything. It was really the worst 7 days of my life.
Oh.
I'll try and get more positive after that. But,
So, yeah, yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing all these things with us about your journey. And I'm glad you have that website where people can go and get some resources because just like you said, there's nothing easy about going through that. Not one bit of it's easy. So it's kind of hard to be positive about it when it's all so painful. So thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that and not only doing that, but going a step further and providing resources for other people.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I always try and keep improving it. The nice thing is I'm not the biggest technical person, but we have a company that helps. So I post like you probably have seen like several times a day, and the website's attached to Instagram. So it's pretty cool technology that if you go to the bottom of our page, it's always constantly updating, brand new, new, new. There's always our Bella is our little yellow golden labradoodle.
Uh-huh.
That's our mascot. So people like the pets. My mother never got to meet her, but she would have loved her. My mother loved animals, loved just spending time with the kids. She loved movies. She loved Broadway. She loved Kenny G, Michael Bolton, and Barry Manilow. I had to listen to them. I love them now. We actually just bought a record player, and that's all we listened to. But we try and keep her memory alive, not just through Parkinson, but I tell them I have three children. My oldest is Brooke, my daughter. She
Mhm.
loved my mother. They were all very, very close. My mother used to help her with homework. And
Mhm.
my middle boy is Joshua. He also loved her. But my youngest, Eli, met her as a baby, so he'll never really have any memory. So we try to just talk about her a lot. And after she passed, it was tough because it was literally right during the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, and we left a chair for her, but it was not easy. She was buried only like 10 minutes away, so I do go back to visit a lot. But it's just part of life. And my dream is one day that at least my daughter Brooke or my kids will continue this on, and then their kids. So we'll see how it goes. And if I had more time and end up retiring someday, I would like to turn this into a foundation, but I'm not really looking for. I would have loved to maybe one day give like a donate or fundraising for future, medical students who want to research neurology and Parkinson's or build something in her name. So there's always things in the future I think about, but for now, my goal is to keep active in the community and meet amazing people like you who really, without, we would never be able to share what we're doing.
Well, thank you. So at this point in the podcast, I ask people kind of a personal question. So what gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
I guess family. That's why we do everything we do. I work 7 days a week, and some days it's tough, but I do it for them. So I'm fortunate when I pass that they won't have to work as hard as I did.
Mhm.
But I think this helps me a lot because, again, I always think well, we bought a home and we had a room, which we were actually moving my mother into with us. She was going to live in our home. But
Mhm.
now that room always, not doesn't haunt me, but I always think about how she should have been with us. She should have been for 10 more years at least, or 20, enjoying the backyard again, the pool and the kids. But what
Mhm.
makes me happiest is knowing that we're making an impact
Mhm.
and that people are meeting me, but with the bands, I mean, we pass out at least 4 or 5 thousand around the country. I mean, we even have someone in Canada thank me. And what's shocking is you don't realize it, maybe not you, but others. Parkinson's is around the world. It's very sad. We might only have 1 million people in the U.S., which might seem like it's not big, but I mean, I work with individuals from Australia, Parkinson's, Canada, Parkinson's, I mean, I think every single country is fighting this. And as a United States, we should be leading the way, on this, but it's very hard. And again, it's not as much funding, but again, what keeps me going is knowing that if we could even impact one family or one person, to know that I'm out there, fighting for them, even though they don't know me, then that makes my heart and my life well worth it. And I tell people I meet, I mentioned earlier, we were at a Parkinson's Foundation walk, which I get so excited. It's only once a year. They have that one, and they have another group has one. I have a little table. I'm the only one there not selling, drugs or selling any no chairs. I just sit there and I hand out bands. I stand. I tell stories about my mother, and I listen to the other individuals who have it, and we all hug. And some of us all cry together. But it's so amazing being with people like that, or being at the ballet the other day, and because it's just inspiring how these individuals are still fighting no matter what. And it's really like a sense of community. I love them all, even if I don't know them. And I want them to know I'm there for them too. I just wish we had more things. Like I dreamt of a gala, maybe or something. I see all these, people having galas and this and that. I like to have just much more for Parkinson, but I always end things or always on my website. I'm only one person, I'm only one son who loved their mother dearly, but there's not only so much I can do. I definitely will keep fighting and keep trying, but I wish I could have more in South Florida. That's my dream. I don't know. Like I would like Michael J. Fox Foundation to come to our area, but I don't know what it is or why they haven't. And it's again Boca Raton, Florida, or Palm Beach County. If you look online, it's one of the retirement areas in the world or country. So you'd think that we'd have a lot more happening, but besides a walk a year, few great lectures, and maybe local people trying hard. It's just not enough. We need more.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for sharing all this with us. And I have one last question for you that I ask everyone, and that is, what is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Yeah, I think my goals have always been being a moral, ethical, and honest person. I've left jobs where I saw things that weren't ethical or honest, because you have to look in the mirror at the end of the day,
Mhm.
give to others and fight for others. I think that's really the moral of my life, whether it's in criminal justice for victims or Parkinson's for individuals. I don't do any of this for money. I don't do it for myself. I really just love helping people. In college, I had some funny certificate that I had like thousands and thousands of volunteer hours, but I think when you help others, you're making a great positive impact on the community, and in turn, it'll help other people. And like I always say, if you just help one person, maybe that person could help two others, and then it just kind of goes on and on and on. So I think that's the main thing. If I ever left a legacy or anything, it's just support others and fight for what you believe, as long as it's for good reasons. And I love podcasts. I love meeting individuals like you, and I'm going to share this around the world forever till I can. And just this is a very important podcast, not because I'm here, but because it can be shared over and over. There's no time, date, or expiration on what we're doing until we have a cure. And I like a lot of the big agencies. They always say we're going to be here till Parkinson's is not. So I love that.
I love that too. Thank you so much, George, for being on the podcast.
No problem. It's been an honor and pleasure, and thank you and all your listeners You're all doing incredible things.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.